The top 10 in the nation had a little bit of movement, but Oregon stayed the same. We're going to recap the Civil War and talk about what we liked and preparation going into the bye week on this week's episode of The O.
All right, everybody got goals and aspirations. You know how you get those? You be the best where you're at.
What does Evan Stewart bring to the table here? In short, you get a baller.
The grass is not always green. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
CFB Nation, welcome in. I am SC Romero, and you are tuning into the O. And as I mentioned, the top 10 has some shakings. Texas moved up to number 1. Congrats to them. But this is a Texas show. This is about Oregon, and Oregon is still in the top 10, baby. Let's go. They're still number 9 right now in the nation, and rightfully so. The Civil War happened. For those people that don't know, Oregon State, obviously in the same state there, they have their rivalry, right? They're about 30 minutes from each other up the Interstate 5 up in northern Oregon. And the Civil War is a big one, man. It's a heated battle. They both bring out their best in them, and it's always a great game to see. And in the first half, to be honest, some things look good with Oregon, and some things were like, man, it's almost kind of the same. Like, we're seeing some of the same mistakes happen here. Dylan Gabriel took advantage of a massive block that just opened up the Red Sea for him, and he took it down the field and scored. Looked great. We saw some of that. Stewart and Tess still can't coexist. Who's at fault? Man, there's some play calling, some play calling there going on. Stewart, that's the explosive part that we're talking about here, man. That's something where with Dylan Gabriel, his accuracy leads the nation, 84%, looks phenomenal. But he's not throwing it when these wide receivers are gaining separation. He's throwing it with the shadow still on him, and these wide receivers are getting hit right at the money. Evan Stewart had 3 yards after the catch this week, and that's just for someone that was so hot of a pickup, how you're not getting him involved. I said it multiple times that, I think Tez Johnson is the wide receiver 1 here. I just think he's the veteran. He's going to draw on the targets. I thought he was going to be the leader in receptions and yards. So far, he's doing really well. Evan Stewart is looking like he's still not acclimated to what they want him to do in Oregon. And maybe that's a reason why we didn't see the breakouts we wanted at A&M when he was there, because he just wasn't getting certain things. And maybe they're going too fast. And at times, it's like, yo, you need to slow it down, man, to read the game there. Trayshawn Holden's looking good. You have Terrence Ferguson looking well as well. I got a little carried away there with the explosiveness, but that is something big. That's something where, as long as one of them are feeding it, I'm not mad at it. But yes, open up the field even further. We need both of them to be on point every game. You can't have 1 week where Evan Stewart has over 100 yards and then Tez Johnson's irrelevant. You can't have 1 week where Tez Johnson has 8 targets and Evan Stewart has 4. Nah, they both need to be feeding, and that comes to Gabriel. A lot of times, man, he's throwing it so quick that he's not necessarily scanning the field to see who else is there. He has his plays. He sees it. All right, on that cut, I'm throwing it straight to you. And yes, that worked in situations for Bo Nix, right? The check down. He was getting that done. But he was also throwing it when his wide receivers had that separation to allow them to get more yards after the catch. We're not seeing that with Gabriel. The completions are great. He's doing that. He's moving it down the field. This week, we saw it a lot. During the first half, it was very tough. Oregon State was running the ball, and I was saying it last week that you got to stop the running game. In the first half, 116 yards rushing for Oregon State. It was like, man, this is the key. It's a battle of the trenches. You need to go in there and do the work. In the second half, they adjusted. The front 7 came through. 15 yards ran by Oregon State in the second half. They dominated there. Front 7 holding. Yes, they did that very nice. And we were talking about last week how that was a big part, right? That you needed to hold them down. And I even said that those two, Hakerson and Jam, were going to be better than Jordan James and Noah Whittington. Jordan James, Noah Whittington took advantage of certain situations. They had some explosive plays as well, and they made big things happen. And we got to see a lot more of that. The biggest thing with this one is we saw it more so. Dylan Gabriel did take some shots downfield. They weren't going that well. And then we saw the running backs take advantage of certain situations. We saw Gabriel take advantage of certain situations. The trenches were phenomenal. We talked about the sacks, 7 sacks in 2 weeks. No sacks this game. Yes, please. That's exactly what we wanted. The protection Dylan Gabriel, he needs a little bit more time. Unfortunately, I still didn't see, like I said, that scanning the pocket, but to see the protection there and seeing what happens when the offensive line is moving and running, you look at it, it was great. Jordan Burch did fantastic on the outside, getting pressure on the quarterback there, which looked awesome. You had Derek Harmon adding some more pressure. The defensive ends, the edge rushers there were closing in, making sure, hey, like he just said, under 4 yards per carry, closing in on those running backs, closing in on McVoy to make sure he's not making the plays as well. Bryce Bouchard, the tackling was on point. And guess what? He was making the presence known at the line too. 7 solo tackles, 10 total. Looking great. Tootie, a menace. Thank you. Mateo Ugalele, a minute. The front seven was clicking. We talked about their defensive backs. The defensive backs look great. They right now they allowed 71% completion there, which is okay. But at the same time, they only allowed 178 yards, no touchdowns through the air. Again, something you'd like to see. The front set, the secondary in Oregon, I think, is underrated. When you have Nico Reed and you have Jabbar Muhammad, I think they're doing a great job right now in shutting down some wide receivers. It's been the battle of the trenches. That's where we've been struggling. And going into the Big Ten, we talk about that physicality. We saw it step up in the second half. We saw guys take advantage. We saw the line when you talk about Cornerly or Cornelius, or even you talk about all the front guys and the guys that are blocking Gabriel looking good. That's a big part. And opening up those running lanes. When they can effectively run the open lanes in the running backs, you open up the field downfield for the wide receivers, because now you're like, oh snap, Oregon's back, that these running backs are explosive, which we thought they were, and they're coming in. Goes to Kenyon Sade. Yeah, he's gonna come in though. I think, and that goes to feeding everyone, right? About the alphas. Gabriel's not necessarily the guy that's going to look at everyone consistently. I feel the way he plays, if he knows a guy has a hot hand, he's going after that. He has his prime targets. It's not someone to find the open field. He has his read, he goes after it, he hits him on the money, and then bam, that's how you get so many good completions. Not to mention a lot of them are screenplays anyways, where he just has to dump it outside, snap the ball, take a few step back, look to the left, throw it, and there it is. And that's something where you're relying on the wide receivers. I get it. But at the same time, like, take the shots downfield because your wide receivers have the speed. When Gabriel gets a little bit more protection in the pocket, it allows these wide receivers to use their speed to get past these defenders and to get past the secondary. And thus, Gabriel can take the bullet downfield and get the big play there as well. And we saw some of that. His accuracy, as we know, the deep ball is inaccurate sometimes for Gabriel, but that's going to be something going into the bye week, right? This was the first 3 weeks matter. And it was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough there, right? And what you were doing, but seeing they're understanding, right? Last week they had 9 penalties for 74 yards. This week they had 3 penalties for 36 yards. Discipline, that's big. You can't be giving up yards on penalties when you're going against the Big Ten. You're going against Jeremiah Smith and Ohio State offense. You can't be doing that. The discipline matters in the front seven, not making the easy, the encroachment or the false starts. Any of those easy plays, the holding penalties, that needs to stop. We talked about last week the inefficiency on third down. 4 for 12 last week. This week, 4 for 6. Granted, they had a lot of big plays, so they didn't need those third downs much, but still that efficiency again, be more consistent there, making it matter, making the big plays when it matter happens. You love to see that. The yards after the catch, we want to see more of that. Jaden Lamar had 2 for 2, 65-yard house call, looked great. But again, that was off the screen. And then, you relied on the wide receiver to do that. But we want to see more shots downfield, especially when you're going in possible shootout scenarios going into some Big Ten battles. Those are going to be big, right? Having those big plays and opening up the secondary to make those matter happens. Going into this bye week, we had to assess the 3 games. We had to understand, hey, this is what's going to happen, right? This is the front seven is something that struggled. What's going on with Boston? He's someone that continues to. He was said to be the leader, right? It looks like Brochure came out and did it. Don't have the dog in him this year. Dorless ain't walking. Dorless was a man, and look, you talk about Bassa. I think Brochure came out and said, "Yo, we need to do it." There you go, Mateo Ugalele. Yeah, young concrete eat. I feel that the front seven, the physicality. That's what I was saying. That the physicality, we didn't see it the first 2 weeks. It was like, bro, this is what y'all were training on all summer, and we did see it. We saw a little bit more of it this week, and now we have another week of luck. Our preparation and what we did during this fall camp, We need to use that and go into this bye week and play every practice like it's a game. Dan Lanning has said over in Oregon, it's Oregon facing Oregon. We're happy with the results, but we're not happy with the preparation that went into it, the process, right? Oregon has to beat Oregon. So what are you gonna do to beat yourself last week? We're talking to Evan Stewart. We're talking to Basa. We're talking to Ugalele. We're talking to Cornelius. We're everyone. What are you gonna do to better yourself? In this game, the first half was key. It looked rough. It was 22-14 in the first half, and the game 49-14. Oregon had that locker room discussion. They came out and said, look, guys, this is not us. We are a physical team. It's not just about the speed. Don't get me wrong, they have the speed. But look, we can be physical. Second half, they adjusted everything, came out and did some things. Shout him out. Yeah, and I feel that's what they did. And that's what happened because he said, look, bro, we're not going to be having our younger brothers, little brother come out here and big brother us. You know what I mean? When Oregon State comes in here, we're not going to allow that to happen. And they did that. They came out second half adjusted, as I mentioned, 15 yards rushing in the second half. No sacks allowed again throughout the full game. The trenches were eating. You were adding the pressure on McVoy to make sure he's not getting his plays out accordingly, disrupting passing lanes, closing in the gaps, and making that happen. That is big because that's something you're going to need to do going in. And that preparation, that locker room speech that happened in the second half or, going into halftime, we need that again going into practice all this week. They need to go out there and do some great things because it's only getting tougher from here. We talk about it. They're going to UCLA after the bye week. Then you have Michigan State. Then Ohio State's coming to Austin. That's big. Those are 3 games in general that can go out either way. It really can. UCLA, we've seen some explosive there. They've struggled as well. Michigan State, we've seen some explosive there. They've struggled as well. Everyone's going through the struggles except the, your top 3 there. But it's like this is not the season, Oregon. This is not. We can't go from this Bo Nix that looked great to Dylan Gabriel. We talked about it. Gabriel's doing great, but he needs to scan the field because I guarantee you there's a big play waiting to happen just in the pocket right there. And he can't just keep going on that first look and hitting the guys direct. It's not working out. It's not going to work out. And the Big Ten has stronger, more physical defensive back linebackers that are closing in, that their speed is like that if he's just waiting for them to make the cut, they're getting hit. Let them gain some separation. O-line, do your best in blocking. Make sure that Dylan Gabriel's not feeling that pressure. So when the guys have that speed and gain that separation, boom, you hit them, and boom, there's your big play. We need to practice more on that. We need to practice more on what he's doing in the pocket, right? The pocket awareness, not just escaping. Don't get me wrong, his feet are great. People will say dual threat. No, not really, but he's good. He's speedy. That's nice. He knows how to escape. But, bro, just stay in there and make sure that your wide receivers are getting open because we can't rely on you, Gabriel. You have 2 talented running backs, have the ball to them. You have talented wide receivers, make sure you're throwing to them, scanning the field, finding out when they're hitting that soft spot of the zone coverage because I guarantee you, every wide receiver in the Oregon room, we talked about the depth, has the field awareness, has the speed, has the agility, has the idea to make tacklers miss when you let them get that separation. The better the offensive line blocks, the more we're going to see Oregon move forward because that's when Dylan Gabriel can actually scan the field and not just hit these check down guys and letting them gain nothing. It's not looking good when the yards after catch aren't doing nothing for Oregon. That's what Oregon's built on, right? That speed, that elusiveness. If you're hitting the guys with the defenders right on them, yeah, you're moving the chains, but what are you really moving if you're going down and making a field goal or having to turn the ball over on downs as well? Those next 3 games become big, man. This is huge. I'm excited that Oregon finally had the blowout that we've been waiting for. It looked good, but to be honest, it looked good in 2 quarters, right? It looked good coming out in the second half. So this is now 10 quarters where we have some things to adjust. If it took that halftime, by all means, but I know it's going to take this bye week, this next week to figure it out as well. These last 2 quarters, watch that tape because what y'all were doing was working, and that's what needs to be adjusted in this bye week to make sure, hey, week in and week out, these last 2 quarters in the past 12 are the way that Oregon plays football. That's what we're going to need in a bye week. That's what we're going to need as we head into UCLA. Man, Oregon's looking good. They look good this week. It's exciting. They got something to click in the second half, which is nice, but it's going to take a lot more than just that clicking to go out into the Big Ten. We get a chance to recharge. We get a chance to get our energy back up, to get that hype back up. We're officially in the Big Ten, baby. Oregon is here. Go Ducks. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time for the CFB Nation, I'm SC Romero. This is the O.
having Stewart bring to the table here, in short, you get a ball.
The grass is not always green. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.